Let me know if there's anything else other than just putting your handouts up. I will take care of that for you as well.
That is perfect. Thank you so much, Wendy. I really appreciate it. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Perfect, because here I am making do on the iPad. So I am really happy to meet all of you, and I'm very happy to be talking to fellow theater educators. Sometimes when I do this workshop, I'm dealing with high school students or performers or college students, but I'm really happy to be talking with fellow teachers. And one of the things that came up for me when I was writing the book was how stage fright tends to manifest in our students in ways that we may not even typically recognize. I think many of us have had the student, like I just did this morning, who was crying in the corner. She was too afraid to do her monologue today. Some students forget their lines. Some students report different symptoms that we'll be talking about. But it was really important for me to use my study on stage fright and bring it back to the classroom, bring it back to rehearsal, to help young actors maybe address this and manage it early in their careers. I know that when I was a young actress, and I think, I mean, it's an assumption, but I'm assuming that many theater educators, we got our first dose of the love of theater and the love of theater education through our own acting. When I was a young actor, I had stage fright, but no one ever talked about it. Besides maybe a cursory, oh, you just have butterflies, or convert it to excitement. But no one ever really talked about it. And I think I was ashamed that I had it. I was afraid that the stage fright somehow was a commentary on my talent. And I kind of put the two together. And as I was doing my interviews for the book, I interviewed many, many, many actors from all levels of experience, from well-known established actors all the way to beginning actors. And almost all of them said that they had a stage fright experience. And some of the actors that I talked to mentioned that they even quit acting because their stage fright was not manageable. So I look at my students now, and I really want to help those that have this anxiety so that they can show their talent and be performers. So I'm going to go through this handout with you today, and I printed it out in a way that it presents a problem that you can talk with your students, and then a solution, a fix to deal with these different aspects of stage fright. And then I want to bring you through 4 exercises. I'm going to get up and we can do them together, or you can just watch. I will completely humiliate myself in front of you by showing you these exercises. And they're things that you can bring into your rehearsal or into the classroom so that you can actually help your students on the spot deal with any performance anxiety that they're happening. I thought I'd be sharing the screen, but I'm going to be referring to this instead. I think the first thing I'd like us to remember, and it's so basic, and sometimes the most profound things in life are the most basic, but no one is alone in this condition. Everybody has stage fright, and it's a normal reaction to appearing in front of an audience. It's the #1 fear of all studied fears. It's the fear worse than death. And I try to reframe that and tell my students that the fact that you are even pursuing performing, the fact that you are even pursuing acting, you are doing one of the most courageous things possible. And it takes courage to step up in front of an audience. And when I reframe that for them, it makes them feel a little bit more empowered. We talk about courage a lot and the type of courage it takes to appear before an audience. So that's a basic comment introductory about stage fright, but I think it's important. So the next piece here is stage fright disguised, sneaky way it may come out in class. Not getting up in class. There's usually a student or two that they always wait till the end. They don't want to volunteer. Avoiding auditions, chronic forgotten lines. This is an interesting one, inability to take direction. I have found sometimes that taking in a direction, which might be a new idea for a student, if they're having performance anxiety, it'll be difficult for them to take that in, and they'll be resistant. Focusing on performance mistakes. I just had that this morning where a student went up on her line and she came to me crying afterward. Oh my gosh, I forgot my line. I'm so sorry. This will never happen again. And I had to calm her down and say, you know, you've suffered enough. You went on and you finished your performance and you did a lovely job. And that's the most important thing. Disparaging oneself is a big factor in stage fright. This is one that we really try to avoid at the Academy is judging another person's performance. And we talk a lot about the difference between critique and judgment, and avoiding hearing any feedback or criticism. Sometimes a student will say, that's fine, that's enough, I don't need to hear this. So here are just some ways that we think students may be acting unprofessional, or they may not be mature, or they may not be focusing on their theater etiquette. But I found that underneath some of these behaviors is a little bit of performance anxiety. So I talk with my students all the time before big performances. If there's fear, the first step is just to accept it. And I can tell you that I've had very moderate and painful stage fright. We just have to accept that that's part of our experience, but it's not a lack of talent. And I talk to my students a lot about nurturing their talent, honoring their talent, and that any kind of stage fright, anxiety, it exists and we accept it, but it is separate. It's separate from the talent. I've got defenses against stage fright, how we pretend. We do that, right? We pretend that we're not really afraid. Some of these may be acting out, maybe a student that causes a little bit of drama about things, or, you know, we've all had those students, oh, I can't possibly do this, or I can't possibly do that. There's some sort of drama about the drama that tends to happen. Denial of stage fright can happen, and you usually see that in performance if somebody is stopping breathing. They're up there and they're doing their work, and you can see that they're not even accepting or not even integrating the anxiety that they're feeling, and they're just in denial about it. Projection can happen. We've had students where everything is somebody else's fault. It's my scene partner, it's my director. I didn't have this, I didn't have that. That could be another way of being for actors. Where am I now? Sorry. And I think that it's important to point these behaviors out to students, because it means that they're not really dealing with their performance anxiety. Lots of times we want to think about what are the causes of stage fright, and I went into that in great depth. Everybody's stage fright cause is different, and everyone's stage fright experience is completely different. It's unique to them. It's like a thumbprint. So there are different theories about it. One is fear of being disliked or being rejected. And I think that's a common fear. Those rejection fears that we won't be good enough. That would be an emotional based cause. This is a really important one when you're doing warm-ups. A performer needs to know within themselves, do they need to be excited to perform, or do they need to be calm to perform? And sometimes if you do a universal warm-up, it might be too excitatory for some students and too inhibitory for other students. So if someone has too much excitement, it could kick them into a stage fright episode, or if they're too relaxed. So when you formulate your warm-ups, it's important that each student begins to learn what they need to feel excited enough to perform, but relaxed enough to not be inhibited. And that's why when you do your warm-ups, you should have excitatory exercises, but inhibitory, relaxing exercises, and then let them choose which ones are best for them before they perform. Negative thoughts. I know that I have suffered from them. I would venture to guess that many of us in this Zoom call have suffered from negative thoughts. That can really cause a stage fright episode. I'm not good enough. These people are mad at me right now because I'm on my iPad. This is happening, that's happening, and the negative thoughts really need to be managed. Sometimes I'll ask a student, oh, write down the negative thoughts you're having about your performance, and they'll come in with 2 sheets of paper. So these negative thoughts can really cause performance anxiety right episode. One is worry. Worrying about your
I can't read it because I'm on my phone, but
I'm just going through it. You can just listen.
Yes.
Yep. Worrying with any physical distress. And so I tell my students, worrying is projecting. There we are. Worrying is projecting into the future. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if the scenery falls? What if I forget my lines? Remind them that the performance art is being in the moment. And as long as they can handle one moment as it comes, this can help eliminate that. There are some biological theories to the causes of stage fright. When you're up in front of an audience and you have all these eyeballs on you, our limbic systems think on some very primitive, deep level that we're going to be attacked. So there's a definite biological fight, flight, freeze response when we are up in front of people and we see all of these eyeballs. Another very important cause of stage fright that I really try to look for, this comes from attachment-based theories. If there's any worry or stress in relationships among cast members, relationships with their teacher or director, in a cast or in a classroom, I work very hard to create a cohesive bond and make sure that everyone feels safe, make sure that my students feel that they have a good rapport with me. Very often you'll ask a student who may be dysregulated one day, you know, what's going on? Oh, I'm having a problem with my boyfriend, or I'm having a problem here or there. Lots of times relationship distress can exacerbate a stage fright episode. And then another cause of stage fright would be a past performance trauma. So if you have something on stage where you forget a line, or there was an accident or something went wrong, it's very common when you go back on stage to think that's going to happen again. So I always talk to my students about, what has performance been like you before? Did you have any mishaps? Did anything go wrong? And make sure that they realize that in this performance, that's in the past, and they don't have to do that again. I'll go through this quickly, but some of the components of stage fright are going to be these irrational, perfectionistic, or catastrophic beliefs. The young lady I worked with this morning, seriously, she was shaking and bawling her eyes out because she forgot one line. But guess what? It was barely a second. No one noticed. I noticed because I knew the script, but no one noticed, and she kept going. So she's got perfectionism going on. And I tell my students, yes, we strive for excellence, but if we strive for perfection, we're never going to attain that perfection. And then I also have to remind them, just because we're being forgiving with ourselves when we make mistakes doesn't mean that we're not striving for excellence and we're not doing work. Any kind of physical reactions are part of stage fright: trembling, shallow breathing, shaking, the behavioral. We avoid auditions, we avoid going to class, we avoid memorizing our lines. Emotional responses to stage fright we've talked about, and all these fears of failure and success and repeat of negative experiences. But the number one fear of stage fright is fear of forgetting lines. And my students will often memorize their period monologues or dialect monologues in their head like they do for acting class. And invariably, that's not a great way to remember lines. So I have them do their monologues. We do 3-minute monologues. I have them do it 20 times in a row. That's 1 hour out of their life. If they can perform the monologue out loud and get it in their body, that can really help eliminate that fear. We have all these physical symptoms. Many of us have had them: blushing, cold sweats, difficulty breathing, dry mouth, mild to severe gastrointestinal difficulties, heart palpitations. I interviewed one professional actor who was told by his doctor that the stress on his heart was so much that it was causing his heart damage, and the doctor recommended that he stop acting. So stage fright can really be serious. We really want to pay attention to it. Heart palpitations, lightheadedness, immobilization, shaking, watery eyes. Maybe many of us have had those, or our students. So these symptoms can be mild to moderate to severe. And I think the fix is to really identify what physical symptoms are going on and address that symptom. If it's difficulty with shortness of breath, add more breathing to the warm up. If it's difficulty with negative thoughts, add positive thoughts to the warm up. You want to identify what stage fright is doing in that particular performer and then address those individual things. Some crazy thoughts. I really see this come up with my students all the time. So sometimes the negative thoughts, they're like this chatter and they live beneath the radar, and students don't even know that they're doing it. Sometimes I don't even know that I'm doing it, and I have to listen to my negative chatter and then really go back and try to refute some of these negative thoughts. But all or nothing thinking, I'm a total failure, I won't be able to do any of it right. This is a big one. The other actor is better. We talk a lot about not comparing yourself to another performer. We can learn from another person, we can gain information from them, but not to compare. I'm not good, I'm just lucky. I know I got cast, but I feel like a failure. I'm a fraud. Here's one. I know the director hates me. You know, I may be balancing my checkbook. Yes, I still balance my checkbook in my head. And a student may look at me and I may be in a completely different place, and they'll say, oh, well, I know that you hate me. It's like, what? I don't hate you. And then, that director didn't look at me because I'm a weak actor. That person doesn't like me because I'm not any good. And in the stage fright workshops that we have here at the Academy, I know it kind of seems like overkill, but when you go through and you have students identify their routine negative beliefs and then you refute them. So the fix would be, is there evidence to support this negative thought? What specific evidence do you have? Is there an alternative explanation? What's the worst that could happen if it were true? What effect is this having on your performing? What if you thought differently?
Hey.
What should you do about it? Hold on. And here's the most important thing about a negative thought is our ego wants us to be correct. So if I think to myself,
You there?
I'm a terrible performer. When you refute that, you're refuting the ego, and the ego does not want to let go of its authority. So it's much easier for the student to believe the negative belief than the positive belief.
Oh, I knew that, but where'd you go stand?
I'm not sitting anywhere. I'm going back.
All right.
So it's really important to layer in, wire in, make these positive beliefs as habitual, more habitual than the negative beliefs. My students will say, oh, you know, you're just being nice, or you're being Hallmark, or you're just trying to get me to love myself, followed by a sigh and an eye roll. But having it positive, constructive, supportive, self-talk is the most important thing, I think, when we're performing, because at the end of the day, when you go out on stage, it's really only you. There aren't going to be cue cards necessarily. There isn't going to be a lot of help or support. It's really going to be you on stage. So if you can build that internal positive self-regard, that internal coach, that internal cheerleader, that is what is so important. That the negativity feels true is why it stays intact. And that's probably the most important thing I can say this entire hour. We think that the negative belief is true, and we want to believe the truth, so it stays there. We think the positive belief is untrue. We don't want to believe what's not true, so we let it go. So this is really a battle, and I work with my students on this all the time to help dismantle their stage fright and build their confidence. Talk about negative belief. My papers just dropped. So before I go on, let's just take a breath for a second, because we're going to get up in a minute and do some exercises. I'm going to skip over this styles of stage fright. You can read that on your own. I think that would be something that you would recognize in some ways that you would handle that with your students. So now I'm going to flip ahead to page 4. So from a biological lens, I think I mentioned that when we're on stage and we're being looked at, and it happens all the time. This morning, my students did their first monologues of the semester. They have to get up, all eyes are on them. They have to do a slate. And you see that moment where they get up and they realize, oh, everybody's watching me. Oh, they all had that moment. So when that happens, our autonomic nervous system, I'm sure you know this, goes into fight, flight, or freeze when we feel overwhelmed with this anxiety. So we have our parasympathetic and our sympathetic nervous system. Our parasympathetic nervous system activates when it's calming us down, and our sympathetic nervous system activates to give us more excitement. So when we're having a stage fright episode, if the parasympathetic is too low, that's when we go into these collapsed behaviors. If the sympathetic is too high, that's when we start having panic attacks. So these two systems work like gas and brakes. And so as we go through each day, oh, I lost my car keys. It's okay, I'll find them. Oh, my boss didn't say good morning to me. It's okay, he's probably having a bad day. That our sympathetic and parasympathetic tends to work like gas and brakes. And this is what we're aiming for with our students. So I want to give you a couple of exercises right now that you can use in your warm-ups to help your students get control of this parasympathetic, sympathetic gas and brake situation. So this first exercise, you don't have to see it because I'll talk you through it. And if you don't want to get up and do it, you can just listen, but it's all printed out for you. This is an amazing exercise to do with your students. It comes from the ALBA method, and it's called the step out. Our faculty, our staff across the board, everyone knows this exercise. So if a student's upset about something, oh my gosh, you have to understand. We just say, step out. Yes, but you don't understand. Step out. Yes, but step out. And they'll say, okay, and they'll do the step out, and we'll do it with them. The step out is designed to get the system into parasympathetic, sympathetic balance. And then we can talk about what's upsetting them. So if there's a stage fright episode, if there's a personal episode, if something is going on where that student is completely emotionally dysregulated, we will do this step out with them. And I highly encourage you to teach your students this exercise because it really does wonders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up. If any of you want to stand up, you can. Be nice on a lunch break to do that. You're going to probably have to see only half of me, but we're going to stand And what we're gonna do is get comfortable on your feet, have nice straight posture, and you're gonna have your eyes look straight ahead. When we look up, that increases anxiety. When we look down, that increases sadness. You just wanna have your eyes straight ahead. What we're gonna do is we're gonna lace our hands together, and then we're gonna take a quick and very deep as you can, inhale through the nose as you arc your arms straight up. Hold your breath. Now bend your elbows and press your palms together as tightly as you can. And now a big exhale through the mouth as your arms come down. So we'll do that 2 more times. So we're inhaling through the nose, arms up, hold the breath, press the palms together, and big breath out. And 1 more time, arms up, breathing in, bend the elbows, press, and we bring the arms back down. Now what we're gonna do is, because fear and almost any emotional state is associated with some sort of tension in the face, you're just gonna palpate around your eyebrows and around your eye sockets. Yeah, this is on page 7. We're skipping ahead, but I'm describing what's written. And then we're gonna palpate around the lips and get your face as relaxed as possible. And now, as if you're just splashing water on your face, just splash your face neutral. 1, 2, 3. And have your face be as still as possible, eyes looking ahead. Beautiful. Now, just pivoting at the waist, we're just going to turn the shoulders to one side. It doesn't matter what side, we're just doing a nice waist pivot. And then you're going to bring your chin to your chest, and we're going to do a sideways roll down. And then we're going to come back up and pivot back to center. And then we'll do the opposite side. And we'll do a sideways roll down. We'll come on back up. We're looking again straight ahead, and we're just going to do a little bounce. We're going to do a little bounce. So the body is not in a fear state when these positions are happening. So when you have the still face, the activated diaphragm, and the sideways movement of the body, and relaxing the upper chest, this gets us out of a fear state. It also gets us out of a deregulated state. So at our faculty orientations, we teach that to our faculty every year, and our students know all about the step out. So that's that. Another thing that we can do for stage fright is called, as I go through my papers here, this is called the silent la la la. This really helps to calm down a stage fright episode. So what you're going to do is you're going to inhale, and if you were going to exhale on an audible la la la, you would do la 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 la, and you would do it as long as that breath will last, until you feel empty, until you feel that crunch at the diaphragm, you're out of air. Then you would take an inhale, and then you would do it again. Now the silent la la la, I had to do it voiced, because if I did it silent, you wouldn't hear me, but we're gonna do it silently. So if I breathe in, I'm gonna do silent la la las. So we tell our students, if you're sitting in a waiting room, if you're in an audition and you feel like you can't do the step out, or you feel like you need to be contained for some reason, you want to be unobtrusive, do that silent la la la. Those are excellent things to do when you're having a stage fright episode. I'm going to save the last exercise for last because it's so humiliating that then I can just get off the camera and hide myself in shame. Where am I here? I'm so sorry. 4, 5. So I'm on the bottom of page 4 now. I feel like acting now, as it should be, has really become about the business and becoming a professional actor. And here in Los Angeles, it's all about the business, the business, the business. I like to remind our actors in managing their stage fright to remember the Greek perspective on acting, that actors were chosen by the gods to perform on stage so audiences could experience catharsis, so their souls could go higher to the heavens. And I like to remind my students that in addition to a profession, acting is a vocation, that many of us went into acting because we loved it. And most people have a particular childhood story. It doesn't have to be childhood, but it very often is a childhood story of playing pretend or making someone laugh or being on stage for the first time. And I bring my students through a guided meditation so they can remember that time when they knew they wanted to be an actor. And almost every time when I ask a student to recall that story, literally their faces fall, they get so vulnerable, their eyes start shining, they light up when they remember that memory that put them on the actor's path. Sometimes I think concerns about professionalism in the business, as necessary as they are, sometimes I think they obscure that joy. And I think that joy of performance is something that we need to regularly connect with to deal with stage fright. So I have them retell their childhood story or their story of how they wanted to know that they wanted to be an actor. And here is, you can read this paragraph and go through this with your students. I really love that. I think that's very important. I'm so sorry, my computer didn't work today. I'm on now. Maybe some of you are old enough to remember that Broadway show, A Chorus Line. Remember that song, And I Felt Nothing? It was a beautiful song about a young actress who was in acting class, and her acting teacher criticized her, and it made her get to the point where she felt like she wondered if she should even be an actor. I like to prepare my students for criticism because not everyone that they're going to encounter will have the ethics of the teachers that decided to make theater education their vocation. How else can I say that? So our students are going to be told all kinds of things about themselves and about their work, and it can be very devastating. Actors are very sensitive people. Our sensitivity is what we bring to our work. It's part of our talent. And I really work with my students to help them deal with criticism. So the most annoying critic can be our own inner critic. And that gets back to the negative thoughts that we need to dismantle. I think we need to see when we obtain criticism, is it destructive or is it constructive? Unfortunately, our world is not perfect, and our students will deal with negative criticism that is destructive. And so we try to have our students deal with taking a piece of criticism, looking at it objectively. Can I learn from this? Is it constructive? Is it going to help me in my craft? Or is this destructive? Is this having me spiral down? Is this not helping me be my best self or gain expertise in my discipline? If the answer is no, we just have to let it go. It's like that song from Frozen, Let It Go. Because this is something that performers deal with throughout their career, whether it's directors, teachers, critics, agents, managers, the whole thing. So that this is a very important aspect of stage fright. The next section is yes, yes, we know, just breathe. I talked to you about the nervous system. We talked about the silent la la la's. So these next two exercises, a great one, a lot of research has shown that if we simply just sigh, the stage fright episode can be averted and we can just feel better. So you can make that part of a warm up, and an actor can do that silently right before they go on stage. Just a nice, can help us to really calm down. I'm gonna check the time. Ah, beautiful. It's really interesting in psychology right now that many psychological theories that came up through the 80s and the 90s really focused on safety. And I've noticed over the years, recent years, my students will say, I want to feel safe, or I don't feel safe. And when that comes up, sometimes I feel like we're in a catch-22 or we're at a crossroads, because performance does have an element of danger. It does have an element of surprise. But I talk to my students a lot. If you wait until you feel perfectly safe or you feel perfectly ready and there's no discomfort, you probably wouldn't perform nearly as much, if at all. So I talk to them about feeling safe, but not completely safe. That not completely safe, perhaps there's an element of excitement or danger or what's going to happen. And I really encourage them to embrace kind of an old-fashioned word, which is courage. It takes a tremendous amount of courage, as I mentioned in the beginning, to go out and be in front of an audience. And so I ask my students to really re-embrace that word and to know that while feeling safe is wonderful, 100% safety and 100% performance, 100% comfort before a performance is not possible because of what's happening in reality. But also many seasoned performers say, oh, well, that time that I felt like everything was just great, which hardly ever happens. But for those that said that, the performance really suffered. So there's always going to be that little bit of something, fear, uncertainty, anticipation, that's going to be part of the performance experience. I think I've said all of these things. 5, 6. Okay, so now I'm going to completely humiliate myself and teach you 2 more exercises. I'll save the most humiliating one for last. This next exercise is called the tick-tock. So the tick-tock will definitely stop a stage fright episode. So the first thing that we're going to do is you can choose any dance step. It could be a step ball change. It could just be step, kick, step, kick, step, kick. But you're going to choose any repetitive dance step that you can think of. And our students probably know what that is. So for me, I would just do step, kick, step, kick. And even though I was trained in dancing, I'm not really a dancer. So I would just do step, kick, step, kick. So if you're doing that now, or you're just watching, that's the first step. If you're doing a random dance step now, good for you. You keep that random dance step going, and then you randomly clap. Now that's really hard to do because you're going to want to clap on the rhythm. You keep the rhythm of the dance step going, but then you clap randomly. It's really hard to do. Then we're going to layer in one more thing. So while you're doing the repetitive dance step, while you're doing the random clapping, then you're going to say out loud, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, at a different rhythm than your dance step. So this is a different kind of tick tock. So you've got repetitive dance steps, random clapping, and then you add in tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. And that will stop a stage fright episode. This comes from De Jong tick tock exercise. So we did the la la la, we did the step out, we did the tick tock, we did the eye sigh. Okay, here's the humiliating one. This comes from the Alba method, and we're going to do what's called the laughter breath. This gets the diaphragm moving and gets the body moving opposite from how it might move in a fear episode. So in a fear episode, we have energy around our eyes. Our jaw is kind of tight and lax, and our breathing is very irregular. We're going to do from the Alba method what's called a laughter breath. So if you want to just watch and laugh at me, you can. If you want to do this, if you're standing in your office, we're just going to stand up, and you're just going to lean from one hip to the other, just kind of back and forth. And you're going to be kind of off balance. So now you're kind of like a drunken sailor. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add in a breath. So I'll stop the movement for a second. The breath is a big oral inhale. And then we're going to have stepped oral staccato exhales until my lungs are completely empty of air. And it's going to sound like a cackle. So I'm going to go. And then I'm going to repeat. And I'm going to put a big smile on my face. And I'm going to have a crinkly eye here. So this is where I'm totally humiliating myself for you. So I'm going to be a drunken sailor. I'm going to add my big open gapy smile. And I'm going to have some crinkly eye. And I'm going to do a big laughter breath. And I'll do it again. Okay, I've done it. I've humiliated myself. So that laughter breath will really get the diaphragm going. It'll really activate the nervous system, and that will also get someone out of a stage fright episode. So I just did that on a very big level. I would call that like a level 4, like a musical theater laugh. You can do that at less intense levels. You could just even do that at like a level 1 or a level 2, like if you were doing film. And you can just have your students breathe in and then staccato exhales and some crinkly eye and a nice smile. And they'll start to feel happier. They'll start to feel more joy. So that is, another thing you can do for stage fright. So I know that I skipped over a couple of aspects right now, but there's a little bit of time left. I wanted to know if any of you had any questions about stage fright that I could answer for you.
Everyone's smiling. No one has any straight stage fright now. Everyone's just smiling, full of laughter breaths.
I found that in working with students, we can talk about negative beliefs, and we can talk about causes, and we can talk about the science of it as much as we want, and it's all really interesting, and I think it's important for us to know. But when you get students up on their feet and doing some of these things, and it's things that they can really apply, it really helps them to calm down. And I spend a lot of time talking with them about their talent. I really believe that the desire to perform and the desire to act is part of the talent, so that anything that's going to come and inhibit that is not productive. And again, it's that thing that, our ego wants to be right. So we believe these negative things about ourselves. And I really work with my students to fight that ego, fight that need to be right, and to think negative things about ourselves, and to try to turn that around to be as positive as we can about our performing, and supportive as we can be about our talent. Because I know that through my actor training, I had some wonderful acting teachers and wonderful educators, but I also had some that were kind of mean. And, they would say things that really stay with you, that can really be hurtful and harmful. And it takes a long time to get over some of those things. So I just think that in addition to the wonderful training that we give to perform, helping our students to deal with the emotional aspects and being able to keep their talent safe and alive and growing is so important.
And I think, Dr. Brennan, what you said at the beginning, just reassuring our students that everyone deals with some form of stage fright, because sometimes you feel like, and I know everyone, earlier on the call we were talking about, is that sometimes you feel like it's only you, or you have a student that says, I'm the only one experiencing this. So I think that the way you frame that, and you've given scenarios that we can do this with everyone, whole class. That way you're not singling out just one student. You're kind of putting at ease everyone that maybe they've not vocalized, or maybe they've not said, hey, I'm dealing with that issue. I love these, because we all felt, we could all do these and it was okay, versus saying, hey, Wendy, I know you're dealing with this. This is an issue, and putting, isolating my stage fright issues just to, one single student. I really, really like that.
Yeah, thank you. Because I think we've all experienced this. And when you talk with your best friend, or you talk with someone that's a close confidant, and you reveal, this is how I feel, I just think it's such a common experience, but we just don't talk about it very much.
Right. All right. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Brennan? Because we have a true expert here with us today. We can pick her brain, and I know she would. These are wonderful strategies. And I must say, I like your TikTok a lot better than the TikTok my 14-year-old is constantly on. So thank you very much for that. I love it. Does anyone have any questions? This has been great. I don't know that I have seen this group smile as much or laugh this much. So thank you for that. I love the laughters and the smiles. And I must say that I don't think I've ever seen Dr. Evans dance this much. So
Come on, you all have seen that Geico commercial with the icky shuffle, get some cold cuts, get your cold cuts, get some cold cuts, get some cold cuts. You've seen it. So had to do it. Linda, you called me out. So there you go. There you go.
Well, listen, it was so nice to meet all of you. And I just, as theater educators, I really believe in what we're doing and we're helping the next generation. And I just appreciate your time today.
Thank you very, very much. This was wonderful. And again, I know several people have echoed the sentiments of thank you for that tremendous handout that you gave us, that resource that we can go back to.
Yeah.
We definitely appreciate it.
You can go through that. There's one thing in there I didn't go through with you, but it's a guided meditation about, it's called your ideal performance. So I have my students pick their ideal theater space. It could be a Greek theater or a London stage or a Broadway stage or a film stage. And I have them visualize doing their ideal performance, accepting beautiful applause from the audience, bowing to the audience in gratitude for watching their work, and really internalizing the feeling of what it's like to give your ideal performance. It's at the end. And that's another part of a warm-up that you can do to get them anchored into what it feels like to really do the best that they can do.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I will send out in our email too, I will send out the website. So if you want to kind of connect further with the dramatic school, you all will have that contact information as well. Dr. Brennan, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it very, very much. Wonderful
Have a great
session.
day.
Thank
Bye.
you.